I'm Edward, and today we're stepping inside the marble halls of ancient Rome to meet an emperor whose name has become a byword for scandal, excess, and madness: Caligula. History remembers him as a tyrant who shocked even the Romans with his behavior. But was he truly the unhinged monster described in the history books? Or has time exaggerated the man behind the crown? Caligula was born Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus in 12 AD, the beloved son of the celebrated general Germanicus. His childhood earned him the nickname Caligula, meaning little boots, because he often accompanied his father on military campaigns dressed in a tiny soldier's uniform. For years he was a darling of the Roman public, a living symbol of a new generation of imperial leadership. But when he ascended to the throne in 37 AD, at the age of just 24, the empire would soon see a dramatic transformation. At first, Caligula's reign promised stability. He granted bonuses to the Praetorian Guard, freed citizens from unfair taxes, and staged lavish public games to win the affection of the masses. Rome rejoiced, seeing him as a breath of fresh air after the tense final years of Emperor Tiberius. But within months, something changed. Ancient writers claim he suffered a severe illness that left him mentally unstable. Others suspect the power simply revealed his true nature. Reports of Caligula's eccentricity began to spread through the streets of Rome. He is said to have built extravagant palaces and ordered the construction of opulent pleasure barges to float on the waters of Lake Nemi, ships outfitted with marble floors, lush gardens, and even heated baths. These projects drained the treasury at alarming speed, and yet he continued to spend as if Rome's wealth were infinite. But it wasn't just his spending that alarmed senators and citizens alike. It was his behavior. Ancient historians like Suetonius and Cassius Dio recorded tales of shocking acts, dining with his horse, incitatus, and even planning to make the animal a consul of Rome. Whether this was a genuine intention or a political insult to the Senate remains a subject of debate. If it was satire, it was sharp. If it was sincere, it was madness. Caligula's relationship with the Senate quickly deteriorated. He is said to have openly humiliated senators in public, confiscated their property, and forced them to participate in humiliating spectacles. He demanded to be worshipped as a living god, erecting statues of himself in temples across the empire. In Judea, his insistence on placing his likeness in the Temple of Jerusalem nearly sparked a rebellion, a move that hinted at both his arrogance and his disregard for religious sensitivities. And yet, for all the tales of scandal and cruelty, there are historians who question whether Caligula was truly as deranged as the ancient sources suggest. Most surviving accounts were written by senatorial historians who despised him, possibly exaggerating his excesses to tarnish his legacy. Could it be that Caligula's reign was more complex than the caricature of a lunatic emperor? This is where the story deepens. Some scholars argue that Caligula was attempting to break the power of the Senate and centralize authority in the emperor's hands, continuing the work begun by Augustus. If true, his outrageous behavior may have been part performance, part political strategy, designed to shock Rome into a new era of imperial rule. But even if politics played a part, there is no denying that Caligula's reign descended into violence. Those who opposed him often met swift and brutal ends. Trials were brief, punishments severe, and accusations of treason became a convenient tool for eliminating rivals. Rome's upper classes began to live in constant fear, while the common people's initial enthusiasm waned under the weight of new taxes and forced contributions. to fund the emperor's extravagance. Still, one question remains. Was Caligula a misunderstood reformer, using shock to consolidate power, or a ruler spiraling into dangerous instability? The truth may lie somewhere in between, and the events that followed would seal his fate forever. In January of 41 AD, after less than 4 years on the throne, Caligula's story came to a sudden and bloody end. The conspiracy that brought him down was led by members of the Praetorian Guard, the very soldiers who had once celebrated his rise to power. Discontent had been brewing among the elites, the Senate, and even within his own palace staff. But it was the Praetorians who struck first. Ancient accounts describe the moment vividly. Caligula was leaving a series of theatrical performances and games when he was intercepted in a secluded corridor. A group of guards and officers, armed with daggers, attacked him without warning. The emperor, who had once commanded the awe of Rome, was stabbed repeatedly until he collapsed. The assassins didn't stop there. They also killed his wife Caesonia and their young daughter Julia Drusilla, ensuring no immediate heir could take his place. What followed was chaos. The Senate saw an opportunity to restore the Republic, debating whether to abolish the imperial system altogether. But the Praetorian Guard had other plans. In a move that would define Roman politics for centuries, they declared Caligula's uncle Claudius as the new emperor, ensuring the continuation of imperial rule. This act cemented the Guard's role as kingmakers in Roman politics. Caligula's death marked the end of one of the most infamous reigns in Roman history, but it did not erase his legend. In the centuries since, he has become a symbol, sometimes of tyranny, sometimes of decadence, and sometimes of misunderstood ambition. Plays, novels, films, and documentaries have all reimagined his life, each version casting him in a slightly different light: the madman, the reformer, the victim of political smear campaigns. Modern historians continue to debate how much of Caligula's notorious reputation is truth and how much is exaggeration from hostile ancient sources. After all, much of what we know about him comes from senators and historians who had every reason to paint him in the darkest possible colors. Some of the most scandalous stories, like appointing his horse as consul, may have been political satire that turned into literal history over time. And yet, even if the tales of total madness are inflated, there is no denying that Caligula shattered the expectations of his era. He defied tradition, challenged the Senate's authority, and turned the imperial court into a stage where he was the central, unpredictable performer. His reign forced Rome to confront the question of what it truly meant to be ruled by a single, absolute leader. In the end, Caligula's legacy is a paradox, a ruler whose life was short, but whose legend has endured for nearly 2 millennia. Was he a monster, a misunderstood visionary, or simply a young man corrupted by the intoxicating power of the imperial throne? Perhaps the real scandal of Caligula is that we may never know the full truth. What we do know is that his name remains etched in history, a reminder of how power, politics, and perception can intertwine to create a figure who is impossible to forget.